Hey y'all, it's your girl Just Bree coming at you with another video. Feel free to hit the like, share, subscribe. Thanks for tuning in to my channel. So I wanted to do a reaction and watch this clip from Tucker Carlson at Fox News. This is what the collapse of civilization looks like. I watched the first half, so I want to watch the second half with you guys. We'll start from the beginning. Yeah, it's quite the report. Let's just say that. All right, let's check it out.
In dystopia, you hear that word frequently. What does it mean? Picture it in your mind's eye. Dystopia is a world where the police will not protect you. They refuse. And at the same time, you are not allowed to protect yourself. So who does that leave in charge? Who runs a world like that? Well, young men with guns. They're in charge. The cruelest and most violent element of any society. The people with the least to lose. The shortest time horizons. The shallowest reservoirs of impulse control. People like that have all the power. You have no power. And that means that everything you have is theirs. That's the end of civilization. It exists in pockets around the world, Mogadishu famously. But if you think it's confined to Mogadishu, you haven't been to Chicago lately. This past Friday, just before noon, a 30-year-old man called Ryan King walked out of a gym in Chicago's Bucktown neighborhood. Bucktown is a former Polish enclave just west of Lincoln Park. That's one of the nicest parts of the city. Real estate websites describe Bucktown as young and hip, a place where recent college graduates who can pay above average rents might live. It's where your kids might live with their friends as they start their first jobs. And that's how most people think of Bucktown, people who haven't been there recently. But local news accounts suggest a very different reality. Shots fired during Bucktown robbery. Man shot during robbery attempt in Bucktown. Bucktown couple shares account of armed robbery, and so on and on. Many stories like this. Ryan King probably wasn't thinking of armed robbery as he walked out of the gym on Friday. It was broad daylight. It was a weekday. But then a car pulled up right next to him. 3 young men jumped out and stuck a gun in his face. Here's an account from a local Fox station in Chicago.
Ryan King turned into an alley near the corner of Wabansia and Oakley to get back to his mother's apartment when a dark colored vehicle pulls up and 3 young men jump out. King says one of them pointed a gun right in his face, demanding his wallet. And moments later, he says a passerby saw the mugging unfolding and yelled. Instincts and his martial arts training kicked in, and that's when King hit one of the men with an elbow and ran off.
Again, broad daylight, middle of the day, nice neighborhood in one of America's biggest cities. So what happened next? Well, according to reporting by CWB Chicago, just minutes after Ryan King was threatened with death for daring to walk outside in his own neighborhood, Chicago police spotted the gunman's vehicle. But there was nothing they could do about it. Their supervisor ordered them not to pursue it. So the criminals just drove off, and of course they committed more violent crimes. In the hours after Ryan King was attacked, 16 more armed robberies were reported in the area. Police believe at least 2 organized armed gangs are now operating.
So I'm so confused. Like, why the hell wasn't they allowed to arrest these thugs? Like, I don't understand. But then I guess I will understand as he mm, uh as we will see in this video. It's all going to come into the light.
With impunity around Bucktown, which means the gangs are in charge now. That's what the collapse of civilization looks like. But it's now normal in Chicago. According to data from the Chicago Sun-Times newspaper, last year, police made arrests in just 12% of reported crimes. That's the lowest level recorded in Chicago history. And that's what it means when politicians hand control of a city to criminals. Here, you run it. In Chicago right now, taxpayers are more likely to be the victims of crime than criminals are to be punished for it. So the question is, why would anyone in Chicago pay taxes? You'd have to be a masochist to do that, and pretty soon only the masochists will be. So how did this happen? Well, it's no mystery. There are many threads, but George Soros is a big one. Soros paid for this to happen. Soros backed a prosecutor called Kim Foxx, who turned Chicago over to the most vicious people who...
If you don't know who George Soros is, you're gonna have to Google him. He's some billionaire, trillionaire who apparently has a heavy influence on politics, particularly on the Democratic side. Um, and then this lady here who looks like Chewbacca, she is the um, district attorney, I believe, for Chicago.
Who live there. Not the decent, good people in all neighborhoods, the most vicious, antisocial people, the ones who truly don't care about others, who are willing to kill people for their shoes or their car. The worst people. And they run things now. This is from our Fox station in Chicago.
Clutching pictures of loved ones, families come together to share their loss.
My sister's name is Tiara Taylor. She died at 30 years old by the hands of her husband.
It's been 336 days since the murder of my son that was 4 years old.
They're also united in their anger and frustration that the killers of their family members walk free. They largely blame the office of the Cook County State's
Local news, okay? So, I mean, I know people got their opinion about facts. And, I really don't give a shit because I watch multiple news sources. I don't get mine from just one particular, um, outlet. I watch a lot of local news and, just a variety. Um, so I say that to say, um, yeah, and it looks like mostly black people standing around here, with their loved one pictures looking for some help. Let's continue.
attorney and Kim Fox.
So we ask you, Kim Fox, how much longer do our families need to suffer in pain and sorrow with no justice for our loved ones being served?
Our children's blood on your hands, Miss Fox, and I hope you see their faces every night.
You think Kim Fox cares? You think she's watching? You think those scenes like that penetrate at all? The shell of self-esteem that surrounds her? No, of course not. She doesn't care at all. That's why she did it in the first place. Someone should take action immediately on that. But she's not the only person who did this. The federal government also played a role. And you probably didn't know it was happening. Over the 8 years of the Barack Obama administration, the Department of Justice forced more than a dozen police departments around the country to enter into something called dissent decrees. Chicago was one of them. The Obama administration began an investigation into the Chicago Police Department, and they got a consent decree. Now, all of these decrees took the same form. They pronounced police departments guilty of racism if those departments disproportionately interact with African Americans, regardless of whether those interactions were legally justified. In other words, the law is entirely irrelevant to the consent decree, and so is reality itself. Here's a line from the DOJ dissent decree imposed under Obama against Chicago. Quote, raw statistics show that CPD, Chicago Police Department, uses force almost 10 times more often against blacks than against whites. Okay, that's one data point. It's not the whole story. It doesn't begin to tell the whole story. There was no analysis whatsoever about whether the use of force in these specific cases was justified. None. So this is not science. They may have graphs. It's not science. It's some kind of crazed race ideology. It's the equity agenda. And in effect, and this of course was the intended effect, these consent decrees have been a disaster for the people of these cities. Even in New Orleans, whose mayor, as we've told you many times, has driven that city, that beautiful city, which is worth saving, right into the sewer. Even the Democratic mayor of New Orleans said recently, and we're quoting, the consent decrees handcuff our officers. That's an understatement.
Now listen, y'all, people feel how they feel about the police department and their mishandlings and, you know, police brutality and things of that nature. And obviously, no sane person um, supports bad police officers, right? You'd have to be a little psycho to think that that's okay to see, for a police officer to um, physically abuse someone. However, out of all the people in the United States, 340 plus million people. And I'm not going to look it up right now because it's kind of hard to find the statistics. I have to do some digging and I don't want to take the time. You got to look that up for yourself. But the police kill approximately roughly a little over 1,000 people a year. Okay. Now, obviously, one murder is too many, right? And that number also has to be divided up, like he was trying to say, um, into the people who, um, you know, who who reach for the officer gun or who pose a threat, you know, even if you have a knife, if you come in full force at somebody's shit in a blink of an eye, bitch, I'm gonna shoot your ass too. So, um, I mean that's saying don't bring a knife to a gunfight. But shit, I'm not gonna try to fight nobody that's wielding a knife at me. I'm just not. Maybe you will, but I'm not. So, like he said, it don't tell the whole story. I mean, you can hate the cops all day long, but at the end of the day, bitch, if somebody break into my motherfucking house, I'm calling 911. Okay? I don't know who you calling, and unless you got a gun to protect yourself, which I'm working on that as we speak, child. So, I mean, listen, it's I mean, doctors kill people, you know, but there is no marches against that. You know what I'm saying? Like, to me, it's just like, okay, you got some bad apples. Just as humans in general, 340 million people, somebody's gonna die, obviously, at the hands of a cop. Like, it's not ideal. It's not the way we want it to happen. Either cops that are just bad people. Absolutely, of course. Like, anyway, I just don't understand the hatred towards all cops or most cops for that matter. Yeah, I was gonna say something else, but let's keep going because the video gets child and it gets better.
At this point, New Orleans is essentially out of police officers. The median police response time in New Orleans to 911 calls is over 2 hours. Imagine.
Bitch, he said 2 hours. Now, how would you? I mean, listen, everybody can't fend for themselves. Everybody don't have a gun. Everybody don't want to get a gun. Everybody ain't physically capable of defending themselves. How would you like to wait 2 hours for the police to show up? That shit is crazy. And I mean, it's one thing if you form your own neighborhood watch and you know the Nation of Islam or some shit walking around protecting your city or your neighborhood. But bitch, ain't nobody doing that. They can't even protect themselves for not being able to get a damn gun permit. Um, what is it? CCW, open carry, concealed carry. Shit, they my cousin just had to restart his permit process because they changed the rules or whatever. Anyway.
Imagine armed people in your home. You call the police. 2 hours. A lot can happen in 2 hours. That's the total collapse of civilization. There's no reason to have a government if the response time is 2 hours. Buy your own guns. Establish your own order. That's where we're going to be very soon. On a recent Friday night in that city, New Orleans, one third-year officer called Scott Fanning just quit mid-shift. Here's how he described it. Quote, that night I quit. There were over 40 calls holding when I logged into my computer, but there were only 30.
And let me say this before I forget. I know ain't nobody really listening. um, but that's okay because eventually, Whatever. I don't want to be big by no stretch of the imagination. If I could just collect a little coin, I'd be all right. But what was I gonna say? Oh yeah. Okay. So here's the thing. The whole thing about people seem to have an issue with the fact that why is it always only when people refer to crime amongst black people, why is it black on black? Why do people say black on black crime? Why they don't say white on white crime or Hispanic on Hispanic crime? I don't even fucking know where that came from. I have no idea why that is a thing. Maybe because we're a smaller number, you know? Maybe because there's more white people, more Hispanic people at this point, shit. And I mean, it's just not enough of us to go around, bitch. So black on black, but still, like, that's just a miss on words. Like, it's just wordplay at this point. Like, who gives a fuck? I mean, at the rate that we're getting killed off, not even including abortions. No, listen, whatever. Not even including those, bitch. We don't have enough people. Okay? I mean, let's keep it 100. Like, you know, black people be so quick to talk about, you know, um, building and growing and, um, you know, being a collective and why we can't work together and this and that and the third. First of all, bitch, can we get some more people? I mean, can we get some more people? It's only 33 million black folks. Last I heard, give or take. Um, Never mind the millions that's down the toilet from the abortion mills. Um, and I've had two, so I'm not judging. I'm just saying, that's shade against me and whatever else. Um, so and then you got your militants talking about armies and this and that or whatever. Bitch, how? we don't we don't have enough people. I mean, I'm not into the militant shit. I'm not about to be out here. I don't know what the hell we fighting for in the first thing. I don't. What is the fight about? I don't know. Shit, I don't watch them channels. Maybe somebody could tell me in the comment section. I don't fucking know.
35 patrol officers logged in for all 8 districts in the city. Some nights there has literally been one person in a big, dangerous city. But it's not just New Orleans. All over the country, police officers are quitting and they're not being replaced.
Departments.
And the other thing is, I mean, the records show, statistics show that black men or people disproportionately, commit the crimes and you know, um, are sitting in the prison system. Um, is that because of some injustice? Absolutely. The the thing is the pendulum, like somebody was saying, and if you think about it, it's like the crime. I mean, the pendulum has swung from the right, you know, with harsh sentencing and Joe Biden and his Jim Crow Joe and his policies and um Clinton with his 3 strikes. It went from that to now it's like free all the niggas. Back the other way. I mean, so now you got sisters out here, free Pookie and Ray Ray. But Pookie and Ray Ray is the ones committing a lot of the crimes. Like if we just keep it 100, I'm not about to sit up here and miss no words now, just because they black. I mean, if that's what you want to do, go by all means, child. But the reality tell a different story, whether we like it or not. And the problem is that the statistics gonna really be screwed up now because of underreporting. Like this shit is ridiculous.
Across the country say a lack of officers is severely.
And not to mention, talk about something affecting black people the most. I think we just we get our ass screwed either way. It just seemed like it ain't no winning for black folks. It just ain't. It just ain't because I mean you could shout from the rooftops, free Pookie and Ray Ray. They got murderers out on tethers. You know, I feel like this. If you get arrested for murder, bitch, they must got something enough to keep you. I'm not saying you guilt. That don't necessarily mean you guilty. But bitch, if they got enough evidence to lock your ass up, I'd rather you be sitting in there waiting for your day in court, than to be out here in these streets. And you know, at the rate that black men are getting killed, going to prison, I mean, shit, bitch, we just ain't. I mean, what's left? I just find it interesting though, because I'm not gonna harp on it too much because, listen, it is what it is at this point. You know, people go, people making excuses to, I don't know.
Limiting what they can respond to.
We'll routinely respond to shootings, but if the person is going to survive, we are not going to follow up on that.
In Philadelphia, the department says it's short more than 500 officers from before the
Wait a minute,
pandemic.
they said they're not
Los
gonna follow
Angeles
up.
also missing.
So what they mean they're not gonna follow up? What? Do that meaning they not gonna pursue and try to find out who did it? What?
Nearly 700 officers from its ranks, prompting the cancellation of its animal cruelty unit and forcing officials to shrink the size of its human trafficking, drug, and gun units and more. With officers struggling to respond to just serious felonies, communities are noticing an uptick in misdemeanors, like in Philly, where more than 30,000 abandoned car complaints are going unanswered.
Oh, did you hear that? So the forces of compassion, of caring, the people who have much more evolved consciences than you do, the people who put coexist in bumper stickers on their Subarus, those people defunded the animal cruelty unit in Los Angeles. So dogs can get tortured to death and nobody cares.
Oh.
And people too.
I thought they cared more about the dogs than the people. Apparently, child, they said fuck them dogs too. Oh my god. This is crazy.
And the cops who remain on those forces, by and large, don't want to work there because who would want to work there for any amount of money? Terrorizing the police with threats of prosecution if they do their jobs. That's what the Democratic Party has done, and the effect has been what it was intended to be.
Okay, so some of y'all may have an issue with him saying terrorizing the police with threats of prosecution if they do their job. Again, there's out of 340 plus million people, there are 1,000 police shooting deaths a year, right? Terrorizing the police, I mean, I tell you one thing, you couldn't pay me to be a police officer, bitch. That's for damn sure. Because just like the guy that okay, prime fucking example, and tell me what you think about this. The young man who was having some kind of psychotic breakdown, the police, it was a standoff for 6 hours. 6 hours. Now, this same psychotic man has shot through this girl's apartment who happened to be black, biracial, whatever she was. Shot through her apartment with her kids in the house while she was cooking. The police took 6 hours still to try to negotiate with him. Okay. And for whatever reason, I guess he flinched, whatever he did that made them, just take him out. Now, the young lady, so then here come Black Lives Matter. Justice for Pookie, justice for Pookie. And the girl that he shot through the house, like, well, what the fuck about, what about me? Why is nobody fighting for me? Y'all giving all this energy to, oh boy, who shot through my house with my kids. And she was literally screaming. And somebody in the not audience, but somebody that was out there gonna tell her, bitch, you still alive. Like, are you fucking kidding me? And so now they want to go after the police for killing. I don't know what the final result was, but ultimately, I'm just saying, they felt the need. They took him out, and they afterwards they had BLM down their backs. But this man shot through this girl house with her kids while she was cooking in the kitchen. But never mind that. Never mind that. We just gonna throw the police under the bus, okay? Um, and maybe I don't know. They obviously the police investigate themselves, so they didn't find nothing, to be wrong with how they handled the situation. But also, he had 6 hours, and nobody could talk him down. And the family, they claim, however the police handled it, they wouldn't let the family talk to him, whatever, whatever. Just a mess. But and who's to say that they made the right calls? But still, 6 hours. You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't know. Maybe you feel different. Tell me what you think.
Depopulating police departments. Crime surged. So in the end, they didn't tell you this, but they succeeded in getting rid of the police. And now politicians are just admitting it out loud in a lot of places. They've decided to just legalize crime. Here's the mayor of Orland Park, Illinois, Keith Pekow, describing the state's new Safety Act. Watch this.
As of January 1st, 2023, the following things will go into effect, and people need to be aware of this. It abolishes cash bail for almost every offense. This includes, but isn't limited to, kidnapping, armed robbery, second-degree murder, drug-induced homicide, aggravated DUI, threatening a public official, and aggravated fleeing and eluding. And keep this in mind, businesses and homeowners. Officers will no longer be able to remove trespassers from your residence or your businesses.
Now, Roland Martin, who I cannot stand, I don't make no bones about. I don't care for him at all. And refer to the video where he's shucking and jiving with Hillary Clinton. Anyway, between him and some other black YouTuber, TikTokers, whatever, they're trying to make this a right and left issue. Oh, look at the right, conservatives trying to scare the people, telling them it's a what do they call it? The apocalypse, whatever. What is it called? Whatever that word is, they call it. Um, so they trying to make this a you know a right wing conspiracy that they trying to scare the people. But bitch, I done seen for myself what the hell they doing. People getting arrested for murder, getting let out with no bail on tethers. I'm 43 years old, bitch, and I ain't never heard of a murderer, alleged murderer, getting let out on a tether unless you can afford your bail. Normally your bail is set pretty high. Now, just because you want to say that, and I guess this is part of the issue from my understanding, that a wealthy person, shit, regardless black, white, or whatever, a wealthy person and a poor person, you know, it should a poor person should be able to make bail, I guess, just as much as a rich person. But shit, I mean, if they can make bail, it- so the point that was made that I agree with too is that wealthy people are 1% of the population. Let's get that clear. So yes, they may get a bond or whatever, bail, whatever, right? And if they flee, I mean, you know, then they'll have to go after them and search for them. Go after them. But that doesn't make it okay to not give a poor person bail. Like what? And lately, I've been hearing all this crazy shit about, like I said, it, I mean, people committing all these crimes and just being not even being charged or not to mention, okay, that's one thing. But bitch, I done seen I don't know how many stories where motherfuckers got rap sheets a mile long, been arrested about 25 times. Okay? So let's not um let's not keep up the myth that, you know, first thing a black person do, they gonna get locked up for life, child. They get locked up and thrown away the key. These motherfuckers be having 20 arrests. Rap sheets long as the day. Okay. I ain't really haven't heard too many situations where it was a first time arrest and the judge just put the hammer down and said, breaking and entering, you're gonna get life without parole. Like, no, that ain't working like that. They getting more chances than I would give them. I tell you that much. Let's continue.
So, how is this working exactly? Is it such a low T country that no one's going to do anything about this? Politicians in Illinois just legalized violent crime against you, and no one's done anything about it. A lot of these people are going to be reelected in November. Really? How does that work?
That's the crazy thing about it. These same people gonna be reelected. That's because people like my homegirl, people like one of my coworkers. They said, you know, they just so sick of politics. You know, they don't like either party or they just don't pay attention. Half the people they interview when I watch these street interviews have no clue what's going on. And the ones that do, they just so fucking, I mean, they just continue to vote the same way because God forbid you get and I'm not saying good or bad, but God forbid you switch it up. You got Democrat run cities 50, 60 years run down into the ground All these major cities, these crime-ridden cities, Democrat run. Detroit, Chicago, Philly, Democrat run for years. Okay, not 10, 20, 30 years, 50, 60 plus years. Okay, um, haven't seen a Republican mayor or governor. So what do that tell you? Because I'm not gonna give my opinion. I'm just asking you, what do that tell you? It's a problem. But yet these same people gonna continue to vote the same way. Okay? Listen, sometimes you gotta shake shit up to you know, to to get some understanding or get some um something done. I mean, hell, my loyalty to one party or one person, like, I mean, would not supersede my safety. And I'm not even saying the other side is better or whatever. But goddamn, y'all, if y'all not gonna hold the people accountable, I mean, what you supposed to do? I don't get it. But whatever, child. All right. And then about the purge. That's what they call it. They were saying how much time I got? They were saying that the Republicans making it up, they scaring the people and shit. So I don't know. I think I said what I had to say.
At work, where's the constituency for violent crime in this country? Is there really one? Is there anyone who's for it other than like Kamala Harris and Ron Klain and the ideologues who run this administration? Most people are not for it. Even most Democrats are not for it. The Safety Act of Illinois stands for Safety, Accountability, Fairness, and Equity today. So the reason they're doing this is because they didn't like the demographic breakdown of the people who are getting arrested for crimes. Period. This can't be happening. Therefore, they're just going to redefine it away. It was ideologically inconvenient for them. So the solution is to just legalize murder and kidnapping and trespassing. And at the same time, you are not allowed to notice that an awful lot of these cases appear to be, it's hard to know and you never want to think it, but they appear to be motivated by racial animus. They do. That's just true. Again, no one wants to think that. But there are so many videos of it. Consider the horrific attack, really an attempted murder, on a student at Westbrook High School in Beaumont, Texas. He was really recently beaten and nearly killed in a bathroom at school. What did he do wrong exactly? We don't know. We can only guess. But here's
No, not watching that again.
so that just can't be allowed in a civilized country. In our country, and lets it happen. And in that video in the men's room, everyone stood by and just filmed it, snickered. The attacker, of course, is a repeat offender. He'd already been busted, went to jail, and they put him back in school. And that'll happen again. You'll never know his name. He's a juvenile attacker, so he has a right to go to school. What about the other kids in school? They have no rights. So that means the bathroom at that school in Beaumont, Texas, which is in the United States, is a pretty civilized place. You can't go there anymore. That's equity. Having trouble eating out, too. Restaurants are suddenly out of control. Is anyone noticing this? Here's footage of a robbery at a restaurant in Los Angeles from May. Yeah. Unbelievable. So then there's this. This is from Providence. This broke out recently, this scene at a place called Mi Sueno Restaurant. Completely out of control. So who has to deal with this? Well, people who have no choice but to eat at middlebrow restaurants and don't have their own private security. But the rich don't have to deal with it because they know exactly what's going on. In many cases, they vote for the politicians who do this, and then they get people.
And see, okay, I'm glad he said that too, because most people think this is a black and white problem. Bitch, this is not no black and white problem. Trust and believe. This got everything to do with a caste system and a class system. This is not about your skin color, honey. This is about I got security, private security, and y'all just gonna have to fend for yourselves. How about that?
People to protect them, armed with guns you're not allowed to have because they have high-capacity magazines. In New Orleans, a real estate developer called Sidney Torres created his own police force. He pays his dispatchers 20 grand a month. We're not attacking him. He probably had no choice. In Greenwich Village in Manhattan, residents and businesses are paying $18,000 for 2 officers to patrol every month. They're doing it, why? Because they want to spend the money? No, they pay taxes in order to be protected, but they have no choice because police have abandoned New York City too.
The NYPD is releasing disturbing surveillance videos almost every day.
Violent video after violent video. Some are hard to watch. Who could forget this horrific shooting? A gunman opening fire on a Bronx street. 2 children are caught between the gunman and his target. The shooter just continues shooting.
One of the suspects was seen on surveillance video pulling a gun on a 32-year-old woman as she was returning home from shopping. Then moments later, a second suspect arrived. The police say they struck the woman in the face. They tied her up, stealing $19,000 from a safe and $12,000 worth of jewelry.
In this one, you see a woman being kicked from behind as she walks down the steps of the Queens Plaza subway station in Long Island City. She is then hit over the head with a hammer as many as 13 times as she is shoved to the ground and robbed.
Did she live?
So these crimes are so appalling, they're attacks not just on individuals, but against civilization and humanity itself, that they at this point really do require an immense and organized nonviolent civil disobedience campaign. So just pick one of those videos at random.
Bitch, if I was a cop, I'm not arresting no damn body. Because y'all ain't throwing me under no bus.
Who's the prosecutor to let that person out?
Just like they, they had the cop that threw that bra on the ground for trying to intervene in an arrest of her boyfriend who was, I don't know, accused of murder or some shit. And the bitch walked up to the cops and tried to step in, child. And then she swung at the cop and he threw her ass to the ground like he was supposed to. And you think, and then they turn around and, accuse him of being overly aggressive, blah, 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 blah. Bitch, nah, you couldn't pay me. Especially not in these liberal cities. Nope.
Refused to charge him in the first place. Who's the politician who decided that attacker had more rights than the old lady he was beating up? Why aren't 15,000 people blocking that person's office or chaining themselves to the front door?
That's what I'm saying. I said that. Like, yo, what in the world? Bitch, I would be downtown. I would chain myself downtown with some metal handcuffs you wouldn't even be able to cut off, bitch. Ain't no way. And people just, it's like kind of like the pandemic. Like, people that was just going along with everything, and then they telling you to get the thing, and look at how Biden got the thing, and then he's supposed to been triple, quadruple boosted, and still got the thing again. But yeah, and still, people was carrying on about, oh, you need to get vaxxed and you ain't wearing no mask, blah 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 blah. And everybody just trying to, everybody falling in line. Fauci didn't change what he said about 15 damn times, and y'all still sitting up here listening to Fauci, child. When he literally said that masks don't do you no good for the most part when it comes to um, you know, preventing whatever, however he said it. He literally on recording on video saying about masks, how masks don't work. So I'm not understanding who y'all looking at, who y'all watching.
Ending an answer. Again, why isn't there massive, nonviolent civil disobedience that can change this? Barking about it on cable news clearly isn't working. We've been doing it for 5 years. By the way, it's not, we've given you examples from LA, Chicago, New York, and you think to yourself, well, yeah, those are big cities. I left. I opted out. I went somewhere nice and beautiful, somewhere like Asheville, North Carolina, up in the mountains. Famously beautiful place. You think you can get away from this in Asheville, North Carolina, the once beautiful mountain town? No, you can't, because it's there too. In 2013, Asheville elected a new mayor, a lawyer called Esther Mannheimer. She had the now mandatory complicated eyeglasses that all the girl bosses now wear. Mannheimer was never especially interested in running the city of Asheville. That was very obvious. She didn't talk much about Asheville. She talked about, can you guess? Climate change and equity. And by the way, anyone who talks about climate change and equity is immediately disqualified from getting your vote. That should be the rule right there. That's like a baseline. Climate change and equity? No, sorry, you're a lunatic. So by the way, under Mannheimer's leadership, Asheville promised $2.1 million in reparations to black residents. Really? How does that work? And how did it all work out? Well, here are the bottom line numbers. From 2016 to 2020, violent crime in Asheville went up by 31%. Asheville's a beautiful place. It should have no crime, but has a lot now. Climate change, equity. Really? Now we have a lot of carjackings in Asheville. Overall, car thefts went up nearly 20% just last year across the country. And they went up in Asheville. So this happened by accident? If all the politicians are talking about climate change and equity and life for you gets worse every single year, maybe they're doing it on purpose. Here's footage from Wisconsin, Philadelphia, and Detroit.
A group of 3 young men wearing sweatshirts appearing to case the home. About a minute later, the trio enters the backyard. Police tell us they stole car keys, a cell phone, and a wallet, and that one of the men was holding a gun. They leave the backyard within 30 seconds as someone from the party follows them out. Then one of the suspects drives off in this black Volkswagen SUV while another runs down the sidewalk.
What you see in this video is a carjacking in progress. Police say 2 male suspects walk up to a man sitting in this white Lexus, open the car door, and force him out at gunpoint. The victim walks away as the carjackers pull off.
His name is Michael Brown. He's around 15 or 16, and he's identified as the suspect driver of this stolen SUV.
As you can see, the Yukon roll over the top of the front of our scout car and knocking over one of our officers seen there on the ground to the right of the Yukon. Then the officer